Hi guys, Vino here and welcome to this Vino Plunk production, and in this video I'm going to be giving my thoughts, opinions, or if you prefer, review on the 2010 film starring Donnie Yen, Ip Man 2. Obviously I went through a spat on my YouTube channel when I was reviewing and giving my opinions on a bunch of martial arts movies, and I was started with the first Ip Man film. I've wanted to watch the first Ip Man film for a very long time. And now I've gone ahead and watched the second Ip Man 2. If you like these sorts of videos and like what I'm doing, then please go ahead, hit the like button or the dislike button. It does seem to work as well. You can also subscribe, make sure the quotations are on the bell icon, and you'll receive a video to your device of choice every time I upload a video. And please leave a comment down below if you wish to see more content like this, or maybe have a discussion with me. With that being said, I'm now going to switch over to my browser. And we're going to switch into that. And I have here the IMDb page for Ip Man 2 all loaded up. So we can talk about some of the facts when it comes to Ip Man 2. And I can give my thoughts and opinions on what I personally thought about Ip Man 2. So the average rating, based on 108,000 ratings, is 7.5 out of 10. And we'll talk about that more in a moment. Ideally, my personal feelings on that. Released in 2010, already said that, rated 15 here in the UK, and is about 2 hours long. The version that I watched, actually, I think was actually closer to 2 hours, but 1 hour 48. That's about how long the movie is. Running time, directed by Wilson Yip, and the writers were Tai Lee Chan, Huan-Yan Choi, and David Tadmik. Starring Donnie Yen, and I'm not even going to begin to try and pronounce those names because I know for a fact I'm going to butcher them. So, Ip Man 2 starts straight up after the events of Ip Man 1. So, I don't think they necessarily envisaged that the Ip Man series would be a film series, because the first Ip Man film ended on kind of a, this is what Ip Man then goes on to become for the next how many years. And spoiler alert, although most people know this, one of Ip Man's most notable disciples and pupils was Bruce Lee. And that is summarised at the end of Ip Man 1. So it kind of gives the feeling that they're saying, oh, this is sort of his origin story. He then goes on to do, great things and bring Wing Chun as well as martial arts in general to a lot of the world. Oh, and by the way, Bruce Lee happened to be one of his most notable pupils. So when Ip Man 2 comes along, I feel it retreads some of the themes of the first film. So in the first film, Ip Man, played by Donnie Yen, lives in a very lavish house, has a very lavish life, and seems to be very much, wealthy in both life and all that kind of stuff, and that all gets ripped apart because of the occupation of China, essentially. And because of that, his house gets reconstituted by the army, and as a result of that, he gets kicked out and it gets headquartered by that army, and then things kind of take a downward turn, and we see him in dire straits, we see him in poverty, we see him trying to scrape by, all that kind of stuff. And in Ip Man, the start of Ip Man 2, they sort of retread some of those subjects. Having said that, it does make the movie very realistic and human to me. There's a lot of movies, especially martial arts movies out there, that seem to show the martial artist or the main character in a sort of lavish life. I know a lot of martial arts do have very philosophical beliefs when it comes to a lot of them, and a lot of the movies sort of show them at the pinnacle of that philosophic life. They have a dojo, they are sensei to a lot of the people, they are wealthy because of the school, the dojo that they run. Whereas when it comes to Ip Man 2, or Ip Man in general, although, and we'll get into this in a moment, Ip Man is trying to get a dojo up and running. 2 seconds, swig a drink. I lied, more than this week. Although, yes, he is trying to get this dojo up and running, it still shows the more human aspect, the real aspect of what's going on. We also know his wife is pregnant in this film, as he's expecting his second child, or she and him are expecting their second child. And as a result of that, obviously, he wants to take care of her and all those kind of stuff. Very typical for the Ip Man movies. He gets one day, after a montage of him in poverty and trying to scrape by, all that kind of stuff, somebody comes to the rooftop where he's got his dojo. And it seems to me like the city have given him this dojo at the top of this roof for free, basically, which later something happens that does get taken away from him, and we'll get to that in a moment. Because he doesn't seem to ever pay rent, or the person that's given him the dojo seems to ask for rent, and I'm not sure, where that person necessarily comes from. Yeah. Anyway, talk about that in a bit later. Excuse me. Should not have glugged that Lucozade. That's probably a bad idea. He gets challenged to a fight. Essentially, completely whoops this guy's ass, and then that person runs away and comes up with a group of people. He whips their ass, basically, and then the person that originally came gets down on her knees and goes, "Teach me, master." To which all the others then to go, "Teach me, master." And it seems to be a competition between all of them in order to be taught by Donnie Yen. It seems to me they don't want to be taught in the ways of Wing Chun for, how can I put this? I think their heart might be in the right place, but the reason they want to learn this martial art style necessarily isn't. So, we then enter into a montage where Ip Man is training all these individuals. And then, the movie does go through very typical cliche when it comes to action martial arts movies. And we'll get into some of the aspects that I think personally make this a very enjoyable film. Although it is very cliche and it hits the usual beats, it's the production value, I think, that really elevates this movie among other martial arts movies. So, one of the members of the school get challenged by a rival member, and then we get reintroduced to, is it Quan? I think it's Quan. Actually forgotten his name right now. I think it's Quan. I'm looking through this. He gets introduced to a previous rival, shall we say, in the previous film, to which we then get introduced to Master Hung, actually played by Samno, I'm going to butcher his name, Samno Kam Bo Hung, who's actually a real martial arts master. And when we get introduced to this character, we're basically then told by this character that in order to have a martial arts school or dojo within inside this area, you need to prove that you can have this martial arts school. So, Ip Man, always never backing down from a challenge and doing the notable noble thing, goes to this, it looks like a restaurant basically, with overturned stools and a table in the middle, and you've got all these different masters, senseis, from the different schools, and basically an incense candle gets lit, and if Ip Man can survive longer than it takes the incense candle to burn out, then he can teach in the city. He then faces all of the masters in this dojo, air quotes, restaurant turned dojo, whatever you want to call it, and beats them quite handily. However, Sensei or Master Hung is not too pleased with the way things panned out, and thinks for a while in the film he holds a grudge against Ip Man in a very big way. Actually, long story short, Ip Man ends up winning. Then Master Hung kind of reveals the bombshell with a caveat to this is you also got to pay $100, basically to these group of people that then acts as protection from other gangs. Ip Man refuses against this protection, saying essentially it's extortion, because it is extortion, and this is where being shown the poverty of Ip Man kind of comes into play in this matter. Also was shown during the montage of him training all of his students, his pupils, was his wife, Lin Zhong, played by Lin Zhong. His wife saying to Ip Man, you need to collect the school fees from these, tuition fees from these people. Ip Man goes to collect them once they can't afford to pay the tuition fees, and then basically just lets them off. It then cuts to another scene, which I actually like the contrast with Master Hung's dojo, where he's literally giving out cash incentives or prizes to his pupils for doing a good job with a particular thing, which is a boxing match. We'll get to the boxing match in a moment. So basically, Master Hung is extorting people, but Master Hung himself is being extorted by somebody else. We then get introduced to Fatso, who is a Hong Kong cop who seems to be under the boot. I'm trying to find to Superintendent Wallace. So Superintendent Wallace is a member of the Hong Kong police force, which seems to be run more like a military operation, and is corrupt as all hell. He's putting the screw on Fatso. Fatso is putting the screw on Master Hung. It's, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, that kind of situation, essentially. So pupils from Master Hung's dojo end up causing Ip Man to lose his dojo, because his pupils fight with Master Hung's pupils. Fight breaks out just below where the where Ip Man's dojo is, and then that person I spoke of earlier has to come up and say, sorry, but the city can't give you this dojo, let you have this dojo anymore. There's been too much problems from your pupils that we can't let you have this this dojo anymore. After the fight with all the other masters, the movie seems to stall a little bit. It almost seems like they intended that to be the end of the movie, but then the movie goes on for another hour or so. And what the movie then leads up to is a boxing match that is Mr. Miller, played by Darren Shalavi, who is an extremely, all of the Brits in this movie are extremely racist. It's just part of the parcel, and unfortunately the era in which this movie takes place in. He's extreme racist. Superintendent Wallace is extreme racist, and they're basically trying to raise money for this boxing match, basically, in which Mr. Miller kills Master Hung, because basically Mr. Miller disgraces martial arts, says that it's, it's a load of dancing and it's not really useful, kills Master Hung, in which Ip Man then avenges the death of Master Hung, and then finally beats Mr. Miller, or Twister, as he's known in the film. So that's pretty much how the film goes. When it comes to, as I said earlier on, the film does hit all of the usual beats you expect it to hit, and is kind of cliche. For that, it actually is really easy viewing. You kind of know what you're going to expect with this. It's kind of like many games. There's a lot of grunts that Ip Man ends up facing. He works his way up to a boss. That's the masters from the initial part of the movie, and then he realizes that that Fatso is extorting Hung, and that Fatso's being extorted by somebody larger. It's that same old cliche and trope of there's an even bigger evil behind that big evil that you just faced. Same cliche, but it makes the movie very easy to follow because you know what to expect. What breaks this movie away from others is, again, much like the first movie, is the production values. It's the direction, the choreography, how everything is shot. I literally don't know how they shoot some of these fight scenes. The camera angles they use are just sublime. Donnie Yen is, as always, fantastic. But having said that, I think all other characters do a fantastic job. I really liked Darren Shalavi as Mr. Miller. He was appalling, atrocious, but it's very charismatic, big on screen. And yeah, thoroughly enjoy the movie if that wasn't already very much obvious. Very much looking forward to Ip Man 3. Yeah, just how this movie's shot, edited, the sound, the visuals, everything, the acting, all is up there. So although the movie itself is kind of cliche, you can kind of expect what's coming. Production is way up there. I thoroughly enjoy this movie. I think the whole Ip Man series is something I'm going to thoroughly enjoy, and I am looking forward to getting to Ip Man 4. It's one of the later Ip Man films in which there is actually a cameo, air quotes, by Bruce Lee, played by somebody else who actually does a really convincing job as Bruce Lee. And in this film, they do introduce a very young Bruce Lee that wants to be taught by Ip Man, but for the wrong reasons. And I think at that point, Ip Man is once bitten, twice shy at that point, and says, yeah, you need to go away and grow up before you can be taught this martial arts style, because I think he's realising that teaching younger individuals who are more reckless martial arts is probably not the best idea. And then it goes back into the whole montage about that Bruce Lee was one of Ip Man's disciples, and kind of recycles what the first film did. But again, giving the impression that they didn't know or realise at the time that this film was going to be a series, and there are 2 or 3 more films in the series, so obviously it was quite a long-running series. I believe the latest one doesn't have Donnie Yen in it, because obviously he's gone off and done other things, such as John Wick 4. Looking really forward to seeing that at some point. But yeah, that's my opinions of Ip Man 2. Absolutely fantastic. Loved it. Cliche story, but production values through the roof. Hopefully you enjoyed my own personal analysis of the movie, and please give your thoughts and opinions, what you thought of the movie, down in the comment section down below, or maybe what you'd like me to watch next. Until next time, guys, please take care, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day. Ta-ra.